Finance Committee meeting for May 17th, 2021 will come to order. I recognize a quorum. Councilor Azak. Would everyone rise, please?
Our city suffered a tragic, heartbreaking, unimaginable loss this past Saturday night when 13-year-old Rafael Andrade and his cousin, 12-year-old Tiago DePina, both students at South Middle School, lost their lives at D.W. Fields Park. On behalf of the full City Council, our thoughts and prayers go out to their family and friends. I would also like to keep in our prayers the Good Samaritans that were there on site with them, that tried to help them, our first responders that were on scene, and the young boy, their friend that was with them and that survived. So I would ask that you please join me in a moment of silence for these young lives that were lost, gone too soon. May they rest in eternal peace. Amen.
Please be seated. Councilors, a couple of preliminary notations. Councilor Cardozo is still overseas and will not be here this evening. Councilor Rodriguez, I spoke with him on the way down, and he had rotator cuff surgery last Friday, and he is not able to join us this evening. This meeting is being held in accordance with Governor Charlie Baker's signed open meeting law order dated March 12, 2020, which relieves a public body from the requirement of Section 20 of Chapter 30A, that it conducts its meetings in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, provided that the public body makes provision to ensure access to the deliberations and the votes. We have done so through Brockton Community Access, Channel 12, and through YouTube Live, the Brockton Channels. With that said, Madam Clerk, would you proceed to item number 1?
Appointment of Jacqueline Murphy of Brockton, Mass. to the Diversity Commission for a 3-year term ending April 2024. Invited Jacqueline Murphy.
Welcome, Ms. Murphy. Thank you for your willingness to serve. If you'd like to make a brief opening statement, that's fine.
I want to thank you all for your patience in my absence over the last 2 meetings. Hit a little snag with the vaccine, but I'm back. House slip is on, but I'm back.
Councilor Azak.
I would just like to thank you for serving on the Conservation Commission. It's one of the most important boards, as it is usually one of the first ones where an applicant goes before the city, so it's very important. So I would like to thank you, and I love seeing women on our boards and commissions, so thank you for your service to our city. And if my colleagues don't have questions, but I see Councilor Castro does.
Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Murphy. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to confirm, and you and I have spoken about this, you've read the ordinance.
I have read the ordinance.
And you understand what the commission does. It's very important work.
It's supposed to be a body of 11 members of the city.
Right, right. And this evening we discussed how, you know, the commission's going to have to be reconstituted because so many of its members, their term has expired. And so, you know, you will be leading the charge, which I know you're capable of.
Thank you, Jack.
And, you know, as part of the powers and duties, as we discussed briefly, there's supposed to be an annual report made to the council, and I don't think it's ever been made since I've been on this council, so that's 4 years. So I am anxious to see it move forward, and I'm sure you will do all that you can. You'll make important contributions. Thank you for your willingness. Thank you for your willingness to serve. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full City Council.
Okay, there's been a motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous. The formal confirmation will be on Monday evening. You don't have to be here, but it will be televised on Channel 12.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Item number 2.
Appointment of David Sylvester of Brockton to the War Memorial Board of Trustees for a 3-year term ending May 2024. Invited David Sylvester.
Councilors, there's a Scrivener's error on this that we'll have the clerk correct on Monday. It's a reappointment of Mr. Sylvester. He already serves on the War Memorial Trustees, and we thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I thought he looked a little shady from before.
Move to recommend favorably.
Second.
Second.
On the motion?
Counsel Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Sylvester. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to ask about, you're just finishing your first term on this War Memorial Board. Can you give me an idea of how often you met and what the board did?
Well, last year being COVID, we really didn't meet at all because of COVID. Prior to that, we did meet on a monthly basis, and we have a lot of good ideas that we would like to get moving on as soon as all this is complete and we start meeting again. You know, one of our ideas is to get a war museum in that building on the second and maybe the first and second floors.
And there is an elevator that's working,
Yes, the elevator is working,
so there would be access.
yes.
That's a really
It's
good,
all handicap accessible.
excuse me.
Bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you. And you're in charge of maintenance of the building too, aren't you?
I think Brian Matter takes care of most of that.
Okay, so it's under the
I do have the keys
city.
and the code to get in, and that I use just strictly for us to, you know, the mayor to get into the meetings.
Okay. I know there's been flooding in the basement of that building in the last few years, and so I just, does your board get involved with that at all?
Yes, we do. We have discussed it, but now that we're gonna start getting together again on a monthly basis, we can get more into the problems with the building. And I'm hoping to maybe get a few grants from the Historical Society also. But that's all work in progress,
That's
because
a
we
good
lost a
idea.
whole year.
Okay. Thank you very much for your willingness to continue serving.
You're
Thank
very
you,
welcome.
Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimously recommended favorably. And again, the full council will confirm this on Monday evening, Mr. Sylvester.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 3.
Ordered acceptance and expenditure of the total grant award in the amount of $250,000 from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, Bureau of Substance Addiction Services to the City of Brockton Mayor's Office. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Corin Capiello, Director of Social Services.
Good evening, Mr. Clarkson.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Corin's not able to be here tonight, so I'm happy to answer any questions. This is a new grant, but for ongoing purposes. As I mentioned in the email I sent to you earlier today, it's for ongoing substance use prevention services that the city currently undertakes. BSAS, the Bureau of Substance Addiction Services under the Department of Public Health, is just consolidating some of the existing grants into one, my word not theirs, omnibus grant program. And so this will encompass a lot of the work that Corin does in her office. So the work is not new, the funding source is.
Questions, councilors? Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Clarkson. Thank
evening.
you for being here and for responding to my email. Well, here is my question. I know that this is federal funds that are coming to us via the state, and just give us a thumbnail on what does this pay for? What kind of services come out of the mayor's office?
So I do know that the mayor's office, through Corin's work, does a variety of prevention activities and Narcan education and working to get people that needed access to treatment or counseling services. So there's really a wide variety of addiction treatment services that the city provides through this grant.
Okay. I know it's a new grant, and so I think I will probably ask Corin and you to return in a few months to tell us about, you know, how it's being spent.
Absolutely. In fact, Corin noted in her notes to me, because it's a new grant application, there were no specific strategies or benchmarks submitted, and so she actually would welcome, I think, the opportunity to come back and discuss it in detail as the activities unfold.
Okay, then we're in agreement. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair.
Motion in favor of recommendation.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Mr. Clarkson, just a technical question. We're accepting this grant, or we're recommending favorably this grant, but half of it is for FY 2022, which will begin July 1st, but we're also authorizing an expenditure of $125,000 for FY '23. Am I correct?
Yes, but the acceptance of the grant, unlike budgeted funds, will straddle fiscal years. So I think
Yes.
one vote will be sufficient to accept the
Thank you.
funding.
All right, all those in favor recommending favorably, all those opposed, unanimously approved. Thank you. Item number 4.
Ordered, total transfer of $30,000 from human resources separation costs to emergency management full-time salaries, $14,000, auditing, telephone, $12,300, auditing personal services other than overtime, $3,700. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Stephen Hook, Brockton Emergency Management Agency, Anne Marie Raymond, Interim Auditor.
Councilors, if you have any questions of the auditor, I will have to have her step down, and I'll ask legislative counsel to step up for a minute. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Mr. Clarkson?
So, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll address the source of the funds first. I'll provide a brief overview of the use of the funds. If you need either Steve or Anne Marie to answer additional questions, that's certainly okay. In this current fiscal year's budget, you authorized an amount of $150,000. The line is called separation costs. At the time, if you recall, we weren't sure if what our staffing levels would be and what the impact of the pandemic would be, so we asked for a $150,000 line item to create a local retirement incentive if the conditions warranted, and we needed to do that as a cost-saving measure. As it turns out, we did not need that, so that money remains intact in the human resources budget, which is why I identified it as a source of these transfers, because it's funds that would otherwise be unused. As to the specific use of the funds, in the Emergency Management Agency, due to the tremendous amount of work ongoing in the pandemic, a salary adjustment was authorized for the director. And in the auditing department, as you know, we consolidated cell phones into the IT department, but the auditing department still pays for the actual landlines. And as systems get upgraded, those costs increase, and that has happened, and those costs are borne citywide in the auditing department. And then the $3,700 is to complete the filling of an additional position that was approved by the mayor for an additional payroll clerk in the auditing department.
Questions, councilors?
Motion for favorable recommendation.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimously recommended favorably. Item number 5.
Ordered, total transfer of $400,000 from the DPW Highway Snow Removal to DPW Highway Capital. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Larry Rowley, Commissioner of DPW.
Mr. Rowley is here. I can gladly give the intro. I'm channeling my inner Tim Crews here, knowing that where he's sitting there, he would ask the question, how much is left? So in the notes that I provided to you, net of this $400,000, there'll be approximately $926,000 left in that snow and ice item. I do intend to come back to you during the budget planning process and ask you to transfer a portion of that into stabilization that we can use to balance next year's budget. But Larry can certainly provide you additional information on the specific equipment that he wishes to purchase with this money. But from my perspective, the money is certainly, it's in place and it's appropriate to use for these purposes.
Good evening, councilors.
Good evening, Commissioner.
So, councilors, with this money I'm asking for, it's $400,000. I'd like to get a backhoe with a plow, which the highway department does not have, and I want to get a new sweeper. The sweepers that we have, one is 14 years old, and I'm not going to put any more money into it. It's just not worth it. And the newest one we have is 8 years old. So they're constantly, these two machines will be constantly being used. So I would like to purchase and
Move to
Questions?
recommend favorably.
Second.
I'm sorry, on the motion?
I would just like to say that I have noticed during COVID that they are out more often than they have been in past years, so thank you. And I know some residents have noticed that as well, so thank you. We definitely need sweepers, so
Yeah, we try to sweep the whole city 3 times a year. 2 times we bring in some subs to help out, and then we have our city sweeper that goes out every day.
every day. Thank you, Commissioner.
I interrupted who made the motion, I'm sorry, and it was seconded by Counsel Monahan, thank you. All right, motion made and properly seconded, all those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimously recommended favorably. Thank you, Commissioner.
Council President, can I just make one announcement? I know just 1 minute. This Saturday is Keep Brockton Beautiful Day. It's going to be held at the high school this year. Registration starts at 8 a.m., and we go into the streets from 9 to 2, and after that, there'll be a box lunch at the high school. So if you could just spread the word for us, we'd appreciate it, because we need some volunteers, because last year we didn't do it because of COVID. So I'd like to see a big crowd of people coming out and clean the city up. So thank you, Council President.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, item number 6.
Ordered acceptance and expenditure of additional grant monies in the amount of $460,623.82 from the Executive Office of Health and Human Services Fiscal 21 Safe and Successful Youth Initiative Grant to the City of Brockton Police Department Fiscal 21 Safe and Successful Youth Initiative Grant Fund. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Emmanuel Gomes, Chief of Police, and Michelle James, Grant Coordinator, Brockton Police Department.
Good evening, Ms. St. James.
Good evening,
Welcome.
Chair. Thank you. I just want to start by saying that it is a little bit of a misnomer that it's additional funds. We were always budgeted this amount for this year, but because the state budget was so late, that's why there, and then there was just, our EOHHS was just a little bit late getting us our paperwork. So this has been money we were supposed to be working off all year. Some bills are a little bit unpaid at the moment, but so this is going to be a catch-up. But this is a long-standing grant in the city, so I think you're all relatively familiar with the Safe and Successful Youth Initiative. It's for a very targeted population of opportunity youth. It's about getting them stabilized, getting them safe, and trying to hook them up into education or workforce as appropriate.
Questions? Councilor Nicastro?
Thank you. Good evening, Attorney St. James. Thanks for being here. About how many it targets youth. About how many does it serve on average a year?
We have a reference pool of 80 that's chosen, but that is selected by the police department. Currently, I believe we have served 54 this year.
54, okay. Probably the number's down because of COVID?
Absolutely.
Okay. And just give us an idea, an example.
Okay, this grant, this population takes a while to get going, we'll say. It takes about a year to stabilize a client in this because of what they've been through, what they've done, and this population has many needs. So stabilization takes a year, and then success can look very different for each client. For one, engaging with behavioral health support and an outreach worker case manager, just enough to be able to get a job. That's a huge victory. For another, though, one who spent too long couch surfing on gang buddies' couches, manages to get stabilized, get a job, and then get enough savings and a credit rating that gets him an apartment. That's a huge success story, and that's fairly recent. Or even one, there's one about 6 months ago, I think. This was someone that had been in the pool for about 3 years, and outreach workers could never get him to engage. And he finally was at the point where he was willing to engage. And I think they pretty much had a party at Safe Corners that day. It just depends on, that success looks different for each client.
Okay, and talk to us about the food.
Yes, one of the biggest initiatives we're going to be starting this year is we're going to get a mobile food pantry. Safe Corners has always delivered food to this population. Basic needs and food insecurity are huge with this particular population, with a lot of populations, but in this one in particular. And during COVID, one of the biggest ways to engage was to get food to people because they couldn't get to grocery stores. Normally, it used to be that Safe Corners would give gift cards to Market Basket and they would be able to do their own grocery shopping. But they found that getting people food was a great way to sit down with them and get them started, get them stabilized. So we're purchasing about $20,000 worth of refrigeration equipment so that Safe Corners can have its own food pantry with perishable foods, not just shelf-stable, although that is also important. And then we're also purchasing a food truck, a truck that has storage capability for food so that we can bring this food into the neighborhoods in a safe and sanitary manner and really engage with clients that way.
Sounds terrific. And colleagues, just as an aside, today's Boston Globe discusses how two Boston area communities, Chelsea and Cambridge, are addressing food insecurity. It's been so extreme during the pandemic. Both communities are giving out gift cards. The Kennedy School of Government at Harvard has been studying what happened with the gift cards in Chelsea. And it's gone for food. It's gone where it's supposed to. And more than 30% of it was spent at a local Chelsea supermarket market basket. So it's working. It's making a difference. It's helping people. And so I'm thrilled to hear we're going to be expanding this to include food. Food insecurity is grave in Brockton right now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? If not, there's been a motion
Move to
made.
recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous, favorable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Mr.
much,
Chair.
Ms. St. James.
Thank you, counselors.
Madam Clerk, number 7.
Ordered acceptance and expenditure of the total grant award in the amount of $40,000 from the Mass Development's TDI Challenge Grant to the City of Brockton Planning and Economic Development. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Robert May, Director of Planning and Economic Development.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir, councilors. I am here to request the acceptance of a grant that we have been awarded from Mass Development. It's a TDI Challenge Grant. With these funds, we are going to, through the mayor's office, pull together a task force to look at how we can support parklets and other pedestrian improvement activities throughout the city. We'll work with the Traffic Commission, the police, fire, parking, and disability advocates and others to create a policy that we would present to the Traffic Commission, and then if that is approved, we'll then have money that will be able to build 3 prototypical parklets that meet the new guidelines and design standards that we'll be developing. And those parklets will be for downtown. The policy will be citywide, though.
Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, Mr. May. Parklet is a kind of a new term for myself. I was wondering if you could explain to the council and for the people at home, what is a parklet exactly?
A parklet is when you take part of a parking space, parklet, and turn it into a park or a public space. You may see these, they're even with the sidewalk. You usually see outdoor dining on them for no local restaurants, but they can also be used as regular public space too. So a place for people to sit down as they're walking through downtown or just dine.
Now, would the sidewalk extend out to the end of that parking space, or what?
It's a temporary platform that's built out into the area. It's level with the sidewalk, so there's no trip hazards. And I anticipate the design guidelines that are going to be developed through this, in conjunction with traffic, police, fire, the works, will make sure that they are safe for vehicular traffic that's adjacent to these.
Now, outside of dining, what other examples would a parklet be used for?
We've seen parklets throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Some are involved, outside of the Council of Aging to create more space for people to sit and enjoy outside. They've been used for small businesses to provide outdoor shopping space. This was an initiative that obviously came out of the COVID experience, and while we have received some good news from the governor just recently, there's still opportunities to make more public space or more usable space in downtown and in other areas in the city.
And would this grant put us in line for additional grants to actually build out the parklets once they're designed?
Well, the first part of the grant is to develop a written policy and design guidelines. So what exactly needs to go into a parklet to make it safe? How do you protect traffic, or how do you protect people from traffic? And then the remainder of the funds will actually build out 3 parklets for use downtown.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Mr. May.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. May. It's a really good idea. At this point, do you have any ideas of where you would see a parklet placed?
I would love to see one outside of Elvira's, the coffee shop downtown.
Sure.
I think that there's an opportunity to support 1 or 2 of the restaurants on Legion Parkway. There might be, I'm trying to think of what's on this side of the street. Well, in addition to Elvira's, there's maybe Cardozo's on Railroad Ave and Montello Street.
I read the grant agreement. I didn't see anything limiting it to the downtown area. What about Montello, or what about Campello?
It is a TDI grant, so it's Transformative District Initiative. So those are focused in the TDI district. However, we will be able to allow people to use those designs anywhere in the city.
Sure. I noticed that you've got initial $8,000 in preliminary activities, and you're going to spend that on a consultant.
Yes, that's the design and policy work.
Okay. And then it says you're eligible for an additional grant of up to $32,000, totaling $40,000, if they approve what you want to do.
If the policy is approved, yes.
Right. And that has to be approved at the state level?
No. At the Traffic Commission.
Okay.
Or within City Council.
Okay. So it's one or the other?
I would think. Traffic Commission is usually the ones that are most rigorous on objects that are in the street, but I will have to defer to the mayor as to what the official policy projection is, whether it's a city policy, it's a city council policy. I'm not sure if city council, I know they create laws, do they create policies? I'll have to ask the mayor.
The Traffic Commission was created by a special act of the legislature, and they have very specific job description. So, you know, whatever the law department and you decide,
Sure.
we would welcome you to come back. And I'd like you to come back to check in with us to tell us what happens, or where you're going with it as it goes on. Looks like it's got a term of 2 years from when you start doing.
Yes, and we'll be also producing a web page, or a segment on our web page that shows the different designs and then how they're used.
That's great.
Go out and
That's
take
great.
pictures of people.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Monahan.
Yes, good evening, Rob.
Good evening, sir.
I'm glad Councilor
It's an interesting term.
Thompson asked you that, because I'm like going, Parklet?
Parklet.
That was, but are there any, you said there are towns that have them already, cities?
Yes.
Towns? So I've never seen one. I'd like to take a look on a website and take a look at what they're actually doing.
I can send you a link through the chair. I'll send it to him, and he can distribute it. But there are parklets all over the country also.
All right, I never even heard of them, but thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome. Anyone else? I just had a technical question. If it's taking over a parking space, so would you not be coordinating with the parking authority?
They would also be on, I'm sorry if I left them off the list, but yes, they would be
And
very.
then the other question is, if you had more than 3 businesses that were interested, would you have some type of a lottery to be fair, that you'd put the eligible people into a lottery?
Yes, we would.
Okay.
Draw straws.
There'd be an independent, objective selection of, all right, thank you.
And who has the best coffee? So.
Yes. All right, was there a motion to approve, recommend favorably?
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Second.
All right, motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All in favor? All opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next one up.
Ordered acceptance and expenditure of the total grant award in the amount of $222,064 from the Department of Public Health Office of Local and Regional Health Centers of Disease Control Grant to the City of Brockton Board of Health Centers of Disease Control Grant. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Eno Mondesir, Executive Health Officer.
Mr. Clarkson, if you want to begin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to provide an intro, and as Anne Marie noted, Dr. Mondesir is here and can speak specifically to the programming, but these two grants both are direct aid from the Commonwealth through the Department of Public Health, specifically for COVID-related activities in the city. So this is apart from and over and above the CARES Act funding that we received through Plymouth County. This is direct funding through the Commonwealth. So my office has been working closely with Dr. Mondesir and his team to identify specific activities. For instance, right now, there's an excellent vaccine awareness program that's being coordinated between the Board of Health and the Mayor's office. And so all those activities to incentivize Brocktonians to get vaccinated will be paid for out of this grant. So it really supplements the money we've been able to access through Plymouth County to do health department specific activities related to the pandemic.
Council Monahan.
Good, so basically, whatever needs we have, we can use this money on, nothing specific, just other than COVID related.
As long as it's right. And so what we prepared when you approved a similar grant, I believe, last year, we prepared a budget for the Department of Public Health and estimated some of the activities we would undertake. There's another one that's due next month, and so we'll do similar to that, and I'll consult with Dr. Mondesir and opine on what activities we might undertake. But the majority of it, I would say, on this one, will be related to vaccines.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? If not, is there a motion?
Motion recommend favorably.
Second.
Oh, I'm
On the
sorry.
motion.
I did not see the hand,
all
Councilor
right.
Castro.
I tried to hide it so you couldn't see it.
I know, he didn't want me to ask a question, but thank you for being here, Mr. Clarkson. Good evening. I see from the attachment on the back of the paperwork provided to the council that $100,000 of this will be spent on support staffing, and the balance, about $122,000, would go for PPE and supplies. Are more people going to be hired? Are people going to be working more hours? Help me to understand.
So the health department has hired COVID coordinators, some additional nursing support for the vaccines currently at the Shaw Center. So we've supplemented our current staff with additional part-time people and contract workers to implement things like that. The vaccine awareness program has utilized some translators. So really, there's a variety of activities that are supported through that.
Okay, and I noticed that it's just coming into us now, but it's got, all these funds have to be spent by June 30th?
So there is some flexibility there. You know, the Department of Public Health understands that, particularly since we had alternative funding sources through CARES, that we want to spend it on the right things, not just spend it because we need to. So I've been in discussions with them about extending that deadline.
Okay, the award letter that's dated March 30th says that there are reports due July, October, January, and April, and July of next year, so it seems almost conflicting.
Exactly, right. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, the last time I spoke with them, they asked for a budget for the funds next month, and so I'm certain that there's some flexibility. The Commonwealth has been very, very helpful, particularly the Department of Public Health, in working with us during the pandemic.
Yes, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. If there's no one else, there's been a motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All in favor? All opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Item number 9.
Ordered acceptance and expenditure of additional grant monies in the amount of $52,320 from the Department of Public Health Office of Local and Regional Health, to the City of Brockton Board of Health, invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, and Dr. Eno Montesio, Executive Health Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could just roll the tape back and repeat the conversation we just had. That's why I rolled them together in my notes to you. It's the same program.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded. Counselor Ianieri.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Troy, for presenting as well, or I should say Mr. Clarkson. For etiquette purposes, it should be Mr. Clarkson, my fault. Mr. Chairman, just if we could just go down a different street just for a couple of minutes, because I think the good doctor's here, and I'd just like to ask him a couple of questions in regards to vaccination in our city.
Certainly.
Good evening. Good evening.
Doctor, how are you this evening?
I'm well, thank you.
Appreciate the fact you were here at the last meeting, and then we more or less moved that one to a different meeting. Appreciate you being here that evening, and we didn't hear from you then, but we will once our other council gets back. But I just want to know from you, and I read it in the newspaper quite a bit and hear about the different things that are transpiring with the vaccination. But as a city, and I hear that we're moving a little bit, have moved out of the red zone again, and we're moving forward. CDC's made some requirements and changes to how we should be dealing with things in the next few months, and even in the next few weeks. Even some changes being made with the governor in regards to the whole protocol to what we've been going through for the last 18 months or so at least. But how do you see the city of Brockton at this point? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. First of all, before you even answer, I want to commend you, the staff. I had my vaccinations up, through the Board of Health when it came time to go to the Shaw Center, and I can't say enough about it. I really can't, and I've heard from a lot of people that were very, very pleased of what's been done at the Shaw Center for the combination of everybody together. It really worked. But now, how do you see us here in the city of Brockton progressing, and are we moving in the right direction? Or as we hear people still a little fearful about being vaccinated, and some even in our mind to, how long will we wear these? And I know I don't have it on here, but I'm a little stickler with it, and I still do wear it, when I go in the market, because I like it, because this is Brockton firefighters on it as well. So I like to advertise a little, but still, my concern is, I hope we can get through this and not have to have some type of an outburst come October, November, December. I guess I'm just trying to find out, and people are asking these questions. That's what's, I think, preventing people from even still going out to get vaccinated. They're still concerned. So just briefly, and I don't mean to take us down the wrong road, Mr. Chairman, but just while he's here, I just thought it'd be good to hear from him. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question. Probably I'll spend a few hours answering everything, because there is a lot there to unpack. But I'll try to summarize it. First of all, we try to follow the science, because there's a science behind the whole issue of COVID, vaccination, and people being protected. And so, therefore, when we look at the science, basically, it dictates us as to which direction to go and how we should move. Last week, I was with the mayor, and he asked me, in my opinion, how we should move in reopening the city. I said I would be a little cautious, because, yes, we saw a trajectory in the downward directions. And today, over the weekend, we hit the yellow color, the yellow mark. That's great. However, there is a little bit of a complication when CDC made the announcement last week that fully vaccinated individuals can just take the mask off and keep on going. I think that's why I told the mayor, I think it would be in our best interest, because in the city of Brockton, we have seen ups and downs, ups and downs. And so therefore, moving too quickly might jeopardize the success that we have made.
Right.
And so today, again, Governor Baker talked about progress, and May 29 seems to be that date when he's looking to reopen almost everything. Personally, I would be a little bit more cautious with this within the city of Brockton, because the state may have spots where there is great progress, but specifically in certain cities, including Brockton, we have not come out of the woods yet. And so therefore, my suggestion would be to move with some caution to opening it. With respect to vaccines, it's moving well, not the way that we would expect it, but somehow people have been vaccinated. On Saturday, we were at the shots for second dose. We anticipated 288 vaccines, but we did 314. Concurrently, there were 2 clinics, one on Friday at the Vicente. There were 71 people vaccinated. By the way, 15 of them with the J&J. And then on Saturday, there was another clinic at the America Food Basket on South Main Street. There were 46 people who got vaccinated. So it's moving. My hope is that individuals who are 12 years old and older would come forward, and that would cover a significant number of people that we see in recent time that make up the number of cases of COVID in the city. And so therefore, I am looking forward for that day when the city will be fully vaccinated, and perhaps I would say, let's kick the mask off and let's have a big party in the city. But yet, not, I mean, at this time, I would say not so fast.
Well, I appreciate for what you're telling us, because that's sort of the way I feel somewhat is we need to be a little bit more cautious. I think it's tremendous, even listening with some of the ways the governor's, performed over the last several months as well. And I think it's probably nice when any governor can meet with the President of the United States and the President can say he's very proud of Massachusetts, which is nice to hear. But I agree with you. It makes me a little nervous, especially as we're into May and we're almost into June. And like I say, then it's July 4th and we're back again, doing what we used to do, back from the summer, and that's what bothers me, and then we'll go into fall. The summer bothers me a little bit, it really does. I see too many people, hip parade, jumping up and down all around, even the past weekend, I saw so many people. Yeah, and it's beautiful weather. I love being out in it too, but I think we need to be cautious, and I just think it's most important that we still sing that message out as elected officials here in the city, that if you have been vaccinated, please do so. Please do so, because it doesn't hurt. It really doesn't. I think it's helping everyone. And again, I think masks are going to be worn in some cases like never before. They should have been used on airplanes 50 years ago and never were. You know what I mean? So, but I do appreciate what you're doing and how upfront you are, and I know the mayor's being very cautious as well, and I think we still need to have that cautiousness as we continue to go. But anyhow, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me go that one extra step. But I thought while he was here, I think it was great to hear from him too. Thank you.
You're welcome, Counselor. Anyone else? Counselor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Mendocino. Thank you for being here. I just had a quick question. When I read the package given to us, I noticed this is $52,000 in addition to funds that had already been awarded to the city last year. And this award came in December, and it was signed in January. And I just wondered what took so long for us to be accepting it.
Well, let me make a caveat, if I may, please. Jumping into the wagon on September 1st, I noticed that COVID takes precedence, and so therefore we move cautiously again to see what needs to be done and how to address each issue. And so therefore this money actually arrived to us, to the city, to the health department, I think late January.
January, yeah.
And so therefore we continue to spend on the larger amount that was given. And so therefore, we work closely with finance, with Mr. Clarkson and his team to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Now, I know there is less than 2 months left.
Yeah.
However, there are needs within the department, and one of the needs is a van that we envision, because we do not have, I mean, every staff member, when we leave the office to go set up a clinic, we use our own vehicles to transport supplies.
Oh.
And so therefore, it is in the best interest of the city and the health department to invest in a van. And I believe that there is a flexibility to use that money, some of that money for that purpose. And a van would serve 3 significant purposes for the department and to the city of Brockton. One, instead of having every staff member using their own vehicles to transport supplies for the city, for the health department, the van would do that. Second, the van would also, we could equip it with a small fridge, because the vaccines need to be refrigerated. And so therefore, as we move to those pocket pop-ups clinics, we could have the van with us, equipped with a small fridge where we could keep the vaccines at temperature so that we don't waste them. Third, the van can also be used as an educational tool with messages and maybe some animated messages. As we travel with it throughout the city, people will see the van, and we have a specific message that we can play to encourage people, say, to get vaccinated, because COVID may be with us for a little longer than we may imagine. And so therefore, we plan on investing in a van, and perhaps, I don't know how that will turn out, but we may come to let you know that this is a van that we would like to invest in.
Sounds like a very appropriate idea, you know, an investment. I'd like to just comment further that I recently rewatched the tape from the April Public Safety Committee meeting. And again, I thank you for appearing. You were at the end of the night and you looked so tired, but yet your comments were very well considered and important for us to hear. Thank you very much for all of your work on behalf of the City of Brockton. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Councilor Azak?
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Montezir. How are you?
Good evening, Councilor.
I just have a couple of questions. I have a few constituents that have contacted me asking, do we have a number of how many actual Brockton residents have been vaccinated? And the other question is, I had another constituent that wanted to get an actual number of residents that have passed away from COVID. Now, I know that we were collecting a lot of this data. It was done on this from the state, but does the city have its own, do we have our own data?
Thank you, Madam. The total number of deaths in the city of Brockton from the inception of the of COVID to date is 429. So we have lost, that's the number of people that we have lost. The number of individuals who have been vaccinated, fully vaccinated, partially vaccinated, we have a partial statistic because partly we do some vaccination. Brockton Neighborhood Health Center does some of the vaccination, and with the help of National Guards, they have done over 30,000 themselves. We approaching half of that for the city of Brockton with the 2 nurses. Well, we started with 1 nurse, 3 nurses, and then we're down to 2. So we approaching 15,000. The other segment that we don't have much control on is the people who get vaccinated throughout the state. Mass sites, Gillette, Stadium, Fenway, what have you. But the state puts out statistics weekly between Wednesday and Thursday. So there are approximately 35 to 38% of the people who have been vaccinated. Now, out of that, some of them are fully vaccinated, 2 doses over 14 days from the second dose, and then some of them are 1 dose. What I can tell you is that people who are vaccinated, we find that, as Dr. Herman showed you many times, there is a decline, significant decline of people 65 and older who are not being hospitalized or who are not infected. The larger number is among people in the 20s and 30s. And so therefore, we hope that this segment in the population will continue to get vaccinated so that the numbers would increase. But I think by Wednesday or Thursday, we will have another number where we could send, if you prefer, we could send that to you to give you a more specific number where we are in the city.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. I think it would be great just to have those figures for our constituents. And I know the mayor had started, I attended a meeting, which I believe you were part of, and a few people in the community were part of, where it's a campaign of awareness to get people to go and get vaccinated, which I think is really great, you know, to bring awareness and kind of try to help you know, get people out there, because Brockton's doing the clinics. We have, as you said, the Board of Health, the Neighborhood Health Center. We have the National Guard here that's, you know, that's helping out, which is amazing. We have BEMA that's also Brockton Emergency Management that's taken part. It's really a great collaboration, and we want our residents to take part of it. So I think it's our job to bring awareness and get people out, and we try to get it out on social media and during, of course, our meetings. So any information you can send us, I would appreciate it. But thank you, Dr. Montezir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Further discussion?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city
Second.
council.
Okay, motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimously recommended favorably. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Madam Clerk, item number 10.
Resolved to invite Brockton Library Director, Mr. Paul Engel, to provide an overview of our libraries during COVID and all the amazing programs and activities taking place this year. Invited Paul Engel, Library Director.
Good evening, Director Engel. Councilor Azak, you
Yes.
filed this. If you'd like to start off.
Of course. So thank you for being here this evening. So, I mean, it pretty much says it. We have so many things happening at the library, you know, even with COVID. I know you're doing a lot of different programs, so I do want to bring awareness to our residents. Many of us get asked many times, you know, when's the library going to reopen? So that's something that maybe after, you know, you give us a little update of what's happening, of, you know, what's it looking like, you know?
Sure.
And where residents can find out about some of these programs. You know, as I just mentioned to Dr. Montezir, a lot of it's bringing awareness to our residents, informing them, you know, where they can get information about what's happening at the library. So with that, I'll let you tell us all about the, you know, what's happening at the library during COVID.
Thank you, Councilor Azak. I want to first acknowledge that the Library Library Chairman of the Board of Library Trustees is here, Jacqueline Meek. It's been a wild year for the library. It's been a wild year for libraries across the country. And the main takeaway that I think we as libraries have learned is how to present ourselves in the online realm. Early on in March, when we had to shutter, We were in the beginning stages of a year-long grant to support and to promote the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage in the United States. And very quickly, we had to teach ourselves how to do that in an online environment. We jumped on the Zoom bandwagon. We started to promote ourselves differently. And the bright side of that, in a nutshell, is that it did two things. One, we did 40 programs online last year, just in the suffrage event alone. And we were able to draw in people from all over the country to participate in those events. We had people coming. We had a woman from Texas, from Lubbock, Texas, who was at almost every single event we did. We had people from Virginia and North Carolina. And so it broadened our doors. It opened our doors wider than we could have ever done in an in-person realm. And the other thing is that we were able to get presenters that we would never have been able to get. We were able to get presenters from the Smithsonian to come and give talks. We had professors from other cities in the country who we couldn't afford to bring in if we wanted to. And so we were able to broaden our scope that way. So there were some positive things to come out of this year. And moving that forward, we will continue to offer an online component to all of our programming going forward, with the exception maybe of outside programming. I'll unpack that in a minute. But as far as doing things in the house, we were able to, through CARES Act money, purchase technology so we can broadcast our events either through Facebook Live or through Zoom. And we have the TV, the sound bars, the microphones, the AV that we need to do that, so we can continue to promote and to present our events throughout the web. So that's a positive that came out of this. The other thing that was kind of cool about COVID was that we had to figure out how to get materials to people. We had to get our resources to our constituents who desperately wanted them. So we meaning Brockton and the library community writ large, took on figuring out ways to do contactless services. So we were able to deliver books to our patrons just by having them check them out, and we would put them on the curb and they would come pick them up. And that's kept our circulation numbers not as high as they would be if we were open, but it still maintained that connection with our patrons. We had, and that's something we can continue too. That's not something that will necessarily go away when we do reopen. Now, as far as reopening goes, last year Brockton was on the vanguard of urban areas in Massachusetts as far as opening. We opened our doors to in-person use and appointment use before any other municipality, large municipality in Massachusetts. I've been a little hesitant to do that this year. I figure somebody else can be on the vanguard of that. And right now there are a couple of libraries out there. The urban library directors meet on a bi-weekly basis and we talk about this. It's kind of our therapy. So we're not on the vanguard this time around, but we do have a plan that was presented to our board the last time we met, where as it stands right now, our plan is to go back to some form of in-person, by appointment only use of the library, meaning that if a person wants to do some genealogy research, they call up, they make an appointment, they can come in and go upstairs and use the genealogy stuff. If a person wants to go to the West Branch Library and browse, they can. If somebody wants to come into the children's room, they can on an appointment basis. So we will be reinstating that. I say this is what was approved sometime in mid-June, and our target date for our full reopen was August 1st. Now that was all based on the governor's criteria prior to today. So now everything is a little bit up in the air. The trustees and I will meet next week. We're going to have a little appreciation lunch for our staff, and it will be a meeting because all the trustees will be there. So we're going to convene at that time and try to figure out, and hopefully we'll get some guidance from Dr. Montesour and the mayor on that. So it's a moving target, I guess is what you're saying. But we are looking forward, and we are looking at the direction of reopening, hopefully by the end of this summer. And then I would say that we would go back to in-person programming inside in September in the fall. All this is on the table as being something that may or may not happen based on how numbers go. What I have done is set up something called the Lawn at East. It's kind of a catchphrase for having a bunch of programming outside this summer. So we're going to start on the 22nd. I know that's the Clean Brockton Day, but we're going to start in the morning with some children's programming. And we figure anybody that's going to have children probably won't go clean Brockton, so we'll give them something to do. And then in the afternoon, we're going to convene and do some poetry reading. And we'll be running something similar to that every Saturday until August. We're going to have the children's programming will be in the morning. We'll have storytellers, we'll have crafts, we'll have professional performers, children's performers, and then in the afternoon we'll do something artistic. I've got poetry lined up, I've got jazz trios and quintets lined up, blues, looking at getting the symphony in a couple of times, just to have something happening. And I'm a big proponent of doing things in kind of a series approach, because then you get familiar and it gets regular. And I don't see this as being something we're going to do this summer and that's it. This is something I think we can continue to do throughout for the rest of our time. I mean, this is a great idea, programming outside in the summer. Well, why not? And then once we get into the fall, we'll give August a chance to kind of assimilate. We've got a couple of in-person events based around going back to school, backpack giveaways and pop-up shops for people to get clothing and stuff like that for free. And that will launch us back into full-time in-person programming. And then from there, I think we'll head back towards some of the series that we've had in the past, the symphony series, the chamber series, poetry series. I know there's some things coming up regarding immigration and citizenship that it'd be premature for me to announce here, but there are things coming up along those lines. And hopefully by mid-September, October, we're back to being the library that we were, with all these other enhancements that we learned about during this COVID time. So COVID has been bizarre, it's been crazy, it's been frustrating, it's been tough, but we have learned and we have created things that are going to enhance our library experience going forward.
Thank you. It's always exciting to hear about all the great programs, but I have to tell you, you're the first person I've heard that have used cool and COVID in the same sentence, so it's cool. So, so I'm glad some positive things have come out of COVID. So once again, I'm going to ask you, how do we get this information out to the residents? Is it being advertised anywhere? We need to get it like in the paper. It's, as a city councilor, and I'm as involved as I can be, a little bit less now because when my kids were younger, we lived at the library. But I hate to hear residents say, oh, after an event or something, oh, I wish I knew about that, or how come I don't know about this? So I feel it's my job, not just as a city council, but as a resident, to try to get this information out. What are you using to get this information out to residents? Because they need to find out about all these great things that are being funded. And I go to some events, and sometimes there's just like a few people, and it's sad because they cost money, and it's in the city it takes time to put them together. So I want to see, and I know COVID, we don't want huge numbers, but we still want it well attended. So how do you get the word out to residents?
Well, a number of ways. Primarily, we have our website, www.brocktonpubliclibrary.org, which we're actually rebuilding. We're creating a new website that's going to be a little bit more user-friendly, so that's coming up. But we post all of our events there. We also, the BCA has started a thing where they're doing a public service announcement day every month, and I intend on myself being there to do public service announcements for the library. Of course, we have, I think really the best way to get the word out is grassroots, is word of mouth. So I'm here talking to you folks, and certainly I welcome the engagement. I love, I'm a performer at heart. I love doing this stuff. So I will go anywhere and speak to anybody about what we're doing at the library. So if you want me to come to a ward meeting, I'm there. Just tell me when to be there. And then we have our Facebook page, we have our Instagram page, we have our Twitter account, so we get out that way. We do post on the Brockton Hub. Jackie Rose down in Bridgewater has what's called the Buzz Around News. She's in Brockton now, so we work through her too. And, as an old musician, back in the day, we would just staple flyers on everything that didn't move and to promote our gigs. And, I haven't really lost that edge. I still kind of do that. So.
No, and I think that's great. I know sometimes not everybody, even like with the city of Brockton, not everybody goes to our website, but the more collaborations we can have within the city. So, for example, if you were to post some events on the city website, well, I think you do. I know some of the meetings and stuff are on there, but if we can post them on the city website, I know BCA has a bulletin board that people see. I think doing the PSAs is a great idea. And I know the Council on Aging has a newsletter, just give them a call. I'm sure Janice would love to put something in there for the libraries. So there's a lot of different aspects. I know we have the enterprise. I don't think it costs anything to advertise, to put an announcement in there for an event. So these are just different ways that we can get the word out to our residents, because not everybody's online.
Yep, Janice and I, we cross-pollinate we have a newsletter as well, so we cross-pollinate our newsletters, and certainly she's a great ally in the realm of the library. A couple of other things, and I appreciate everything you're saying, and the enterprise admittedly is a little tough for me. They're a little harder to get a hold of. Ann Beauregard has been very helpful in being a conduit to the enterprise. But I wanted to mention a couple other things we've done. Is one, we've built up our library of things over the past couple of months. So we got some money from COVID. You guys actually authorized it. And we're using that to buy, instead of buying bibliographic material, we're buying drones and musical instruments and lawn equipment and all sorts of stuff that we circulate to the public. So that's something that I'll be talking about a lot and getting that word out. And we also had purchased a lot of technology. We bought a lot of laptops, iPads, and hotspots for circulation. And then we got a call from one of the hospitals. I'm drawing a blank on which one. I think it's the one up here on the north side. And it was a woman who was the director of the unit that handles the at-risk births. And she just called us and asked, is there a way that we can work something out where if you have any technology that you can circulate to new moms, they've given birth to an at-risk baby, they can't get to the hospital for a variety of reasons, be that they don't have transportation or there's COVID restrictions. And so we immediately jumped in, and we have been circulating hotspots and iPads. They also may not have technology available to them in their circumstance. So we've been circulating to new moms who have at-risk children technology. And that is something that's really freaking cool. And in addition to that, the state has gotten into the game of procuring hotspots. And Brockton was one of 20 cities that was identified as being a landing spot for hotspots. And I've been in conversations with the MBLC, and we will be receiving additional hotspots from the state in order to supplement this program. So again, these are, if you think about where art comes from, art usually comes from some of the most dire places that humans experience, and we are in a dire place, and out of it has come some really positive things.
Which is good to hear, and I'm all about that. So I love this, and I loved hearing about all this, all the great things, and I look forward to the 22nd. So after the cleanup, we're heading over to East.
Come on over, here's some
East
poetry.
Library, and for the poetry outside. So I think there's a lot of good things happening. Thank you again. I don't know if my colleagues have any questions for you. If not, then I will.
Councilor Ianieri, and then Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. How are you, sir?
Good evening. I'm well. How are you?
It's a pleasure seeing you, and it's a pleasure with your presentation too, to let us know what's going on within our library system, because I think it's still a very, very important, vital piece of education to this city of Brockton, and no doubt we want to continue that, and I know there are people that are looking back to get into the branches and do some things again, and I know it's taken some time. My question to you is, and I know not only to you, but even to the library trustees, I think there's still one other thing that we still have left to do, And I think that is the dedication and renaming of the Brockton Public Library to our great and good friend, State Senator Thomas Kennedy. And I know some people have asked me about that along the way, like when could it happen? And it's one thing we've always done in the city is, when we do dedicate a building, whatever, that person's already gone on to the reward in the sky. But it's another thing when we don't, do the dedication because it does need to be done, but realizing everything that's happened in these last few months, it's made it very difficult. Have you people have any type of a date in mind at all, or is it something that could be done at least by next year, I hope, end of the year into next year? Or?
We don't have a date in mind yet. I've actually not had a conversation with either Senator Brady or Representative Cassidy about that. That would probably be where I would start.
Sure.
And I will start that.
Right.
I know that last year we were going to do it in March. We were going to do it around St. Patrick's Day,
And then
the High Holy Month for
everything
Senator,
happened.
Kennedy. I don't know what they're thinking. I think we're at least a couple of months away from having that, although we're getting closer to having outdoor gatherings.
Right.
It just takes time to plan, and I want to make sure when it's done really well.
And I understand that, and I just don't, and I don't think it's going to be left on any type of a back burner, but I just want to make sure that we do, we do get it done if it can be done through the course of this year. Though I know it doesn't take long for a year to go by, but hopefully if it even is into next March, well, that's fine too. But we do definitely want to make sure that does get taken care of. No doubt.
I appreciate the nudge, Counselor, and I tell you what, I'll reach out to Senator Brady's office and to Representative Cassidy this week.
It's just a sweet nudge I'm giving you. Next year I won't be sitting here, so it could be a kick. So watch out, okay? But anyhow, I appreciate it too. I know, and you're doing a fine job too. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Engel. Thanks so much for being here. So many Ward 4 residents miss access to the library. I've heard about it so often in phone calls from constituents. The library and the Council on Aging, the opportunity to visit both is greatly missed. And I'm so thrilled to hear that you've got some idea of when you'll be starting back up and allowing people in. My parents let me ride my bike to the library beginning when I was 8 years old in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and it was such a big deal, and Scranton had 2 wonderful libraries. I've been prowling the stacks all these years, and I too miss coming in and just looking for a book, looking for a familiar author and seeing what I can see. You're entrusted with a city jewel in the downtown library and also the 2 branches. And I know that you've done your best. I've attended some of your online, yes, in the past year. The Suffragette was wonderful. Really, really great. You pivoted very well. And of course, you and I spoke a couple of months ago about having an author who I had heard speaks, Professor Rosa Brooks, come in and speak, and I have not given up.
Nor have I.
Okay, on having her come because I think it's so timely what she teaches. So in any event, I just want you to say, I think it's fair to say my colleagues and I support the endeavors of the library. We're so looking forward to normalcy in the form of being able to enjoy the libraries again in person.
Thank you, Counselor, but you also have to realize that we miss you.
Oh, sure.
My staff are just, they're dour. They miss having people in the building. They miss.
Oh, that goes without saying.
So we'll get back there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All in favor? All opposed? Recommended favorably. And thank you to the chair and the trustees for your work, by the way. It's a team effort. Councilor Nicastro and then Councilor Azak. Councilor Nicastro, I think you wanted to say something about your high school activity.
Actually, I will defer to Councilor Azak.
Councilor Azak, then.
Okay, I'm going to be long, so if anybody's going to be quick, I'll let them go. I have a bunch of announcements.
Any, Councilor, it's been a long day.
Lally?
Counselor Lally.
Tell me how you really feel, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a timer?
I wanted to, just to really quickly wish my sister Grace a happy 18th birthday. Her birthday was yesterday. I did give her a registration thing to register to vote, but I did stick it inside of a card, so it counts. But I just wanted to wish her a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Grace.
Happy
That's it. What was the time, Councilor Monahan?
Anyone
It seems
else?
like
Counselor
yesterday, you were
Azak.
just 18 years
Okay.
old.
Getting old.
So, a moment of council's recognition. I do have a few announcements to make. First of all, this past weekend, Brockton High School's award-winning drama club put on an amazing show outside, which was absolutely beautiful. I know many of us attended, but I have to tell you, we have amazing, talented students, but they would be nothing without the administrators, their instructors. They really make it possible year after year, and it was 50 years of putting on musicals, which was really, I was surprised. I think the first musical was put on at the new Brockton High School in 1971, and it was called Brigadoon. So,
I was in that.
you were in that? Wow. Well,
Boy.
As a
Oh,
freshman.
boy.
you're very nice. Well, got talent. Did you dance, sing, counselor, or were you
No,
acting?
the funny thing is that they had us in the chorus, and I was basically singing, but they had you set up running around the stage, whatever you had during the chase scene and stuff, so she was watching me run around there, and I wasn't the fastest. So
Oh,
she goes, "You just stand over there behind that bridge, you'll be good there." We'll use your voice, that's about it.
well, I'm glad, because sitting there, I wondered if I would have known anybody that was in there. Now I do. So, thank you, Councilor Monahan. So, it was amazing. As always, it was made up. A lot of the instructors and people that helped put the show on were alumni. There's a list of them, but I will name the few that right off the top of my head, which are Bob Hogan, Matt Cunningham, Carol Thomas, Elaine Kelly, and of course, Vinnie Macrina, who was there to make sure that the music and the pit and the band in the pit were played right on tune. So it was an amazing show. I can't say enough of it, and I was so happy they were able to put it on this year because of COVID. So the next announcement goes right along with the musical. It's this Wednesday, May 19th at 6:30 p.m. Brockton High School's music department is putting their Pops concert on. It will be held outside in front of the Fine Arts Building, the same place where the musical was. And so please come support our talented students and enjoy their musical talents. Another announcement is I would like to just recognize my amazing sister, Ward 6 School Committee woman Joyce Azak, who with even more amazing PTO moms has organized a Facebook page for this year's high school seniors on Facebook. The page is called Adopt a Brockton Senior Class of 2021. So you can go on, find the page. You can either, if you have a senior, a high school senior in Brockton, you can post their picture and information, or you can adopt a senior, which is really great. That means you just recognize them, or, you know, we can send them notes or gifts or whatever the adopted person wants to do. This class lost a lot. I know we concentrated on the class of 2020, but actually the class of 2021 lost their junior year and their senior year. They at Brockton High School. They weren't able to participate in any of the senior year events. No, you know, homecoming games. They didn't get any proms. So this is a good way to recognize them. So I'm really grateful that these ladies put this page together for them. Another comment was Commissioner Rowley did announce Keep Brockton Beautiful, which is this Saturday, May 22nd. So we do want everybody to please help us, counselors. I know Councilor Nicastro announced it during one of her shows, announced about it. So everybody, let's get everybody out to clean up Brockton and work on keeping it beautiful. So if you need more information, of course, contact the DPW, the Recycling Center, or you can check out the city website. And lastly, we started out this meeting with a moment of silence for the young boys that lost their lives. But as we mourn the loss of these, the 2 boys that lost their lives at DW Fields Park, I have received many emails and calls on the safety of the park. And sadly, nothing that we can do or say will bring them back. But I just want to reassure everybody at home that as the Ward 7 City Council, I'm in constant contact with the Parks Superintendent, Mr. Tim Carpenter, and we are always working to see what we can do to keep the park safe and enjoyable to everybody in the city. So the safety of our residents are our #1 concern. So we just wanted to make sure that that I put that out there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Anyone else? I've been asked to announce that we have 2 mobile vaccination clinics coming up, May 21st, Friday, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Price Right Market, 245 East Ashland Street. So that's May 21st, Friday, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., Price Right, 245 East Ashland Street. May 22nd, Saturday, 3 to 7 p.m., Vicenti's Market on South Main Street in Campello. That's May 22nd, Saturday, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., Vicenti's Market, Main Street, Campello. There is no appointment needed. And then lastly, and this is not meant to be a negative but a positive, I'm driving here at 6:34 p.m. tonight. I'm going easterly on Torrey Street. I approach the intersection of Belmont Street, just past CVS, and to my left across the yellow line goes a yellow quad and a blue dirt bike operating on just the rear wheel. We just had a moment of silence for 2 young boys who were killed. As surely as I'm sitting here, something has to be done about this. Never mind the nuisance factor, something has to be done. Someone is going to get killed, and I don't want that to happen. So I would ask, I mean, I can do it, but the chair usually delegates. If someone would file a resolve to have the traffic commissioner and the police chief and anyone else on the command staff come in, we need a plan. We need to have something that we can hang our hat on for the coming months, particularly with the warm weather. Because I don't want a kid to get T-boned by someone turning and they don't expect someone to be across the yellow line at a high rate of speed going down a side street. I can't think of anything worse. So, and I'm sorry to be so emphatic about this, but I just have a sense that something is not going to go well if we don't try to bring this under some degree of control. So with that, if there is no further business, meeting adjourned.
Good night.